When I think I feel that stare, and I reach out my hand to stroke his hair, and he's not there. Oh, how I wish that wasn't so. I'll always love a dog named Bo.
For more than 30 years, Johnny Carson owned late-night television like nobody else. He could save a dead joke in seconds, flip chaos into comedy, and make millions feel like they were chilling right there with him. The Tonight Show welcomed thousands of guests, but only a rare few cracked Johnny's armor and made him genuinely light up. When those people sat beside him, the show stopped feeling like TV. It felt loose, wild, and personal, like two friends having way too much fun in front of the whole country. And today, we're breaking down the guests Johnny loved more than anyone else. At the very top of that list sits Jimmy Stewart, the one man who brought Carson to tears on live television. Jimmy Stewart stood for everything Johnny respected in a person: honesty, humility, and realness. He wasn't slick, flashy, or trying to win the room. During interviews, he'd pause mid-thought, stumble over words, search for meaning, and just be himself. That raw, unpolished energy was something Hollywood had crushed out of most actors, and Johnny ate it up. Their bond was locked in forever during a 1981 appearance that still hits hard today. Stewart came out to talk about his recently passed dog, Bo, then casually pulled out a poem he had written. Johnny had no clue what was coming next. Stewart started reading in that shaky, halting voice about Bo hogging the bed, morning walks, loyalty, and the pain of coming home to silence. Halfway through, Johnny's eyes were already glassy. By the end, tears were rolling down his face on national television. No jokes, no deflection, just pure emotion. That clip exploded into one of the most replayed moments in Tonight Show history because it was painfully real, in a way TV almost never is. Johnny trusted Stewart so deeply that rules didn't apply to him. Staff were told to stretch his segments, push commercials, and let him talk as long as he wanted. While most guests got 7 tight minutes, Stewart got unlimited time, on camera and off. Behind the scenes, Johnny called Stewart the gold standard of perfect television. And before his final broadcast in May 1992, Johnny personally called Stewart just to hear his voice one last time and thank him for 3 decades of real friendship.
A German would say, why would you call this man curly? He has no hair at all. Why would you call someone curly who has no hair? That doesn't make sense.
That's not funny, then.
And tiny is at least 350 pounds.
That's true.
Then there was Bob Newhart, the man who made comedy look ridiculously easy. Bob matched Johnny Carson, beat for beat, dry humor, surgical timing, and that calm, low-key delivery that trusted the audience to keep up. Their conversations didn't feel scripted at all. They felt like jazz sessions, smooth and unpredictable. Newhart would start a story, Johnny would drop the perfect interruption at just the right second. Then Newhart would build on it. Johnny would fire back, and suddenly they were locked into a rhythm that looked effortless but actually took insane skill to pull off. Nothing felt forced, nothing felt rushed, and that's exactly why it worked. One of Newhart's most infamous Tonight Show moments was his German impression routine. Using his signature deadpan style, he joked about how literal-minded he believed German people were, saying it made American humor impossible for them to understand. It wasn't loud or flashy, it was pure Newhart. Long pauses, awkward stammers, and quiet observations that hit harder the longer he waited. Johnny completely lost it. He was bent over laughing while the audience went wild. But after the show aired, controversy followed. Some viewers accused the bit of stereotyping. Johnny didn't hesitate for a second. He defended Newhart publicly, saying it was obvious satire and anyone offended was missing the entire point. That loyalty mattered to Johnny, and he never forgot it. What really sealed Newhart's place, though, was who he was off camera. Even after becoming a massive sitcom star, he stayed humble. He personally thanked Johnny every single time he appeared. He treated crew members with real respect, learned their names, and asked about their families.
What the hell happened to this? You know how long I've had the cigarette box on this desk?
You brought that up from New York City?
I brought this from New York. What on earth?
It happened last night.
Who?
Don Rickles.
I did not see the
Don
show
Rickles
last
did it last night. He's taping across the hall.
Somebody broke my cigarette box.
Come here. Believe this. I don't believe this. What? Come here. Come here.
We're taping. I just started the show. I picked my box up off my desk that I've had for 9 years. My box is broken. They told me you broke it on the show last night.
Well, I really... You get dummy.
No, but I'm sorry about the box.
Well, so
I will come up with something.
Well, I hope so.
In an industry drowning in ego, that meant everything. Johnny couldn't stand prima donnas who treated staff like servants. Newhart was the opposite. Eventually, the two became real-life friends, something Johnny almost never allowed. He guarded his private world fiercely, but he played golf with Newhart regularly and shared dinners at each other's homes. That level of access only happened a handful of times across Johnny's entire 3-decade run. One of the others was Don Rickles, the only insult comic Johnny fully trusted. Rickles could roast Johnny's golf game, his marriages, his hair, even his monologues. Nothing was off limits. Anyone else would have crossed the line instantly, but Rickles knew exactly where that line was, and Johnny knew it too. Their bond was sealed forever during the legendary broken cigarette box incident. While guest hosting, Rickles smashed Johnny's prized box. Johnny stormed onto the set of CPO Sharkey mid-taping and confronted him on camera. Johnny only did that because he trusted Rickles to turn chaos into comedy gold, and Rickles delivered instantly. What the hell happened to this became legend for a reason. Rickles looked terrified and thrilled at the same time, and that moment turned into comedy gold they kept milking for years. Don Rickles respected Johnny Carson's power, but he never worshipped him. He treated Johnny like a guy you could bust chops with, not some untouchable legend. And Johnny loved that more than any fake praise or brown nosing. Then there was Burt Reynolds, the ultimate prankster who truly understood the assignment. Burt knew talk shows weren't press junkets, they were performances. You didn't come just to plug a movie, you came to play and entertain. Reynolds brought raw spontaneity and straight-up mischief every single time he walked out.
I got a big appetite. Are you kidding?
Like to eat, huh?
Well, when I eat at McDonald's, I stand outside and watch the sign change. I mean, you're a big appetite. I mean, you gotta exercise. I don't exercise.
You gotta
I'm
keep
too
it
old
fit.
to exercise.
Oh, come on now.
Kid, if you see me jogging, it means the laxative is working.
He launched full-blown prank wars with Johnny that became Tonight Show legend. The most infamous moment came when Burt smashed shaving cream directly into Johnny's face mid-interview. No warning, no setup. Johnny's jaw dropped, the audience gasped, then exploded with laughter, and Johnny loved every second of it because Reynolds was one of the very few people who could still surprise him on live television. Burt had zero ego about being the joke. He could take hits just as hard as he dished them out, and that mattered big time to Johnny. He'd show up in ridiculous outfits, bring wild props, or completely switch directions mid-interview just to see how Johnny would react in real time. Those unpredictable moments were what Johnny lived for. That chaos reminded him why live television still mattered. You could see Johnny's entire energy shift the second Reynolds stepped through the curtain. This wasn't about to be some boring movie promo block. Johnny even used Burt as an example when coaching younger actors. Forget the rehearsed talking points. Be yourself. Trust the moment. Come ready to play. That was the Reynolds formula, and it worked every single time. Then there was Rodney Dangerfield, the most reliable guest of them all. Rodney was a non-stop laugh machine. Rapid-fire one-liners, no fluff, no wasted seconds, just straight punches of comedy. Johnny knew if the monologue bombed or the first guest fell flat, Rodney in the second segment would save the entire show. Consistency mattered more than almost anything to Johnny, and Rodney delivered every single time. He hit his marks, matched Johnny's rhythm perfectly, and left audiences roaring night after night. And beyond the jokes, that whole "I get no respect" persona wasn't just a bit. It was the engine that powered everything Rodney touched. That whole no respect persona pulled out a totally different side of Johnny Carson. That character let Johnny step back and play the supportive straight man, and he genuinely loved that role. He loved feeding Rodney Dangerfield setup lines and watching Rodney flip them into brutal punchlines. It became a perfectly timed dance. After dozens of appearances, Johnny would tee it up, Rodney would knock it out of the park, and the audience would absolutely lose it. But underneath Rodney's insecurity act, there was real vulnerability, and Johnny clearly felt that. You could see it in the way Johnny leaned in during Rodney's stories or laughed harder than necessary just to give him extra momentum. Johnny took care of guests he truly loved, and Rodney was 100% in that inner circle. Then there was Carol Burnett, the guest who brought pure warmth every single time. The moment Carol walked out, Johnny's entire body language softened. With most guests, he kept a professional distance, but with Carol, he fully relaxed. She could improvise freely, go completely off script, or even flip the tables and start interviewing Johnny himself. And Johnny trusted her enough to roll with whatever direction she chose. That kind of trust was extremely rare. Off camera, Carol treated everyone with kindness, from pages to camera operators to makeup artists. Johnny noticed everything. He believed you could judge a person's true character by how they treated people who couldn't help their career. Carol passed that test every single time. She remembered crew members' names, asked about their families, and picked up conversations where she left off on return visits. Johnny constantly extended her segments, broke his own timing rules, and even bumped scheduled guests just so she could finish her stories. Staff members said Johnny regularly pointed to Carol as the perfect Tonight Show guest. Talent, warmth, professionalism, spontaneity, genuine kindness. Their friendship was obvious on camera, complete with inside jokes and references to private conversations Johnny almost never shared with others. And then there was James Garner, the definition of authentic Hollywood cool. Garner was everything Johnny believed a real movie star should be. Real, unpretentious, and allergic to ego. He told stories like a regular guy hanging at a bar, never hyping himself up. Even when talking about massive films like The Great Escape or working with legends like Steve McQueen, Garner focused on mistakes, chaos on set, and moments that kept it human. That honesty hit Johnny right where it mattered. He talked about forgetting lines, clashing with directors, and moments that went sideways. Real stuff. Johnny Carson loved that honesty and the total lack of Hollywood polish. James Garner treated every crew member with the same respect he gave Johnny. During commercial breaks, Garner would chat with camera operators, joke with stagehands, and actually remember their names when he came back months later. That alone locked him into Johnny's good graces. Johnny felt relaxed around Garner in a way he almost never did with actors. On air, Johnny would casually reference things they'd talked about off camera, something he only did with guests he truly trusted. With Garner, nothing felt managed or stiff. Johnny talked to him like a longtime friend who just happened to be famous. The conversation flowed effortlessly. Johnny didn't need to steer, rescue silence, or force laughs. That natural rhythm was rare, and Johnny treasured it. Then there was George Burns, the undisputed master of the set. Burns embodied everything Johnny aspired to professionally: longevity, discipline, and comedy that never went stale. Johnny actually got nervous before Burns' appearances, which almost never happened. Carson controlled that set with surgical precision, but with Burns, he became a student again. What fascinated Johnny most was that Burns got funnier with age. While most comedians peaked early and faded, Burns hit a whole new level in his 70s and stayed razor sharp for decades. It broke every rule Johnny believed about entertainment aging out. During interviews, Johnny deferred to Burns more than almost anyone. He'd let minutes pass without interrupting, completely unheard of for a host known for tight control. Johnny wanted to hear everything. Stories about vaudeville, the early grind, surviving and thriving in comedy for 70 straight years. Even during commercial breaks, Johnny stayed locked in. No producer check-ins, no note flipping. He leaned in, soaking up Burns' stories like a private masterclass from a living legend. That level of reverence was reserved for maybe 5 people in Johnny's entire career. When Burns talked, Johnny listened, really listened. And then there was Lucille Ball, one of the very few guests Johnny openly referred to as royalty. Their mutual respect came from shared understanding. They both knew the brutal pressure of carrying a weekly television institution on their backs, night after night, with no room to slip. Lucy had already done it with I Love Lucy. Johnny Carson was doing it every night with The Tonight Show. They spoke the exact same language: the grind, the pressure, and the non-stop demand for excellence. Johnny completely deferred to Lucille Ball during her appearances. She got the best camera angles, extended airtime, and full freedom over how segments flowed. Johnny didn't rush her, redirect her, or cut her short, ever. In one unforgettable moment, Johnny surprised Lucy with her decades-old screen test from before she was famous. Lucy instantly broke down crying on camera. It wasn't staged. It was raw emotion. Johnny had clearly taken real time to think about what would actually move her, not just what would boost ratings. That moment said everything. Johnny admired Lucy, not just as a performer, but as a powerhouse mind. She wasn't only funny, she was television's first female studio head. She built an empire in a business dominated by men who didn't make space for women. Johnny respected that kind of earned authority, especially knowing the era she came up in. Their conversations carried real weight, far beyond typical talk show banter. There was history, respect, and shared understanding in every exchange. Then came Orson Welles, the guest who flipped a totally different switch in Johnny. When Welles appeared, the tone shifted fast. Suddenly they were talking history, literature, politics, classical music, and magic, things Johnny deeply loved but rarely explored on a show built around lighter entertainment. Johnny actually prepared for Welles. He studied. He read for hours just to keep pace with Welles's massive knowledge and razor-sharp mind. That was almost unheard of. Johnny didn't do homework for guests, but Welles was different. Welles also performed elaborate magic tricks that thrilled Johnny, who had been a lifelong magic fanatic. You could see Johnny light up like a kid watching secrets unfold. But what Johnny truly respected most was Welles's brutal honesty. No Hollywood spin, no fake polish. Welles openly talked about movies that failed, projects that collapsed, and creative choices he flat out regretted. That kind of candor was rare among major stars. Most only bragged about wins. Welles laid out the losses too, and Johnny respected that truth more than any glossy success story. Johnny told close friends that his conversations with Orson Welles were some of the most intellectually satisfying moments of his entire career. They pushed him. They challenged him. They reminded him that television could be more than punchlines and movie plugs. And that's the real thread connecting these 10 guests. They all did something rare. They made Johnny Carson feel like a real human being, not just a late-night institution. Each one unlocked a different, authentic side of Johnny. Jimmy Stewart made him vulnerable. Bob Newhart made him feel understood. Burt Reynolds brought out his playful side. Don Rickles made him laugh like a regular guy. Rodney Dangerfield made him supportive. Carol Burnett made him warm. James Garner made him comfortable. George Burns made him humble. Lucille Ball made him deeply respectful. And Welles made him fully engaged on an intellectual level. That was the real test for Johnny. Could you make him drop the host mask and just be himself for 7 minutes? Most guests couldn't. These 10 did it every single time. Now I want to hear from you. Who do you think was Johnny Carson's absolute favorite guest of all time? And which guest do you wish had made it onto The Tonight Show but never got the chance? Drop your thoughts in the comments. And if you want more deep stories from the golden age of late-night TV, smash that like, hit subscribe to RumorFame, share this video, and I'll see you on the next one.